We're going to kick it off here first with, I'll just kind of go over the plot real quick. I watched it again the other day, both the US and Japan versions. There's a little tiny bit of difference, but not that much. Basically, how many people have seen the movie, in fact? It should be a lot of people. Cool, cool. Basically, what happens is there are these earthquakes, and Godzilla hasn't really shown up yet, but there's a little intrigue with aliens and stuff, the nebula aliens, and what they're wanting to do is Seatopia is this under the water country, right? So all of our stuff we've done, drilling, whatnot, oil, all that kind of offshore stuff, is creating problems for them. So they summon up, yes? I'm sorry? Oh, yes, that's right. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that. That has been flipped. They did it on the sheet over there, but I guess they didn't tell anybody. Yeah, the times that flipped, they're going to be right after me. They want to know if I can do this first, and then because for some reason they had to do it because the guy wasn't here yet. So I said, okay, no biggie. But yeah, so I could just flip and everything. Thanks for reminding me, I almost forgot. Anyway, so pretty much people know how this goes. They arrive, wake up to their savior, Megalon, and he goes up to the top world and starts creating havoc, destroying things all in his path. And of course, Godzilla is teaming up this time with this brand new robot that has been created named Megalon. And they go into battle with him. And of course, Megalon needs some help, so he brings in Gaia, excuse me. Anyway, so battles ensue, there's a lot of pounding on each other, but in the end, of course, Godzilla and Jaguar defeat them. One thing I wanted to talk about was some of the characters in here. Of course, Godzilla is Godzilla. So, new suit from the '68 suit, the last time it was used was in the 1972 film. Before this, Godzilla vs. Gigan, that was the last year they used it. And this is also the first time that Haruo Nakajima did not play Godzilla. Back in the early '70s, what happened was film attendance had really dropped off in Japan and other places in the world too. Television had taken over. So unfortunately, Toho had to let a lot of people go, lay off a lot of people. Nakajima-san was one of the ones that got laid off. And in fact, to make ends meet, there were no, like I said, for royalties or anything like that. So to make ends meet, he worked in a bowling, he managed in a bowling alley for many years after that. And so that's kind of where he wound up after the layoffs and stuff. But he was still, going around the studio and trying on new Godzilla suits and hang out and things like that. But anyway, this is the very first time he was not doing that. And the Godzilla suit here is a little bit different. It's more kind of uppity, I might say. It's got more of a friendly face. And there's no really threat factor about the suit because pretty much at this time, Toho decided that mainly children enjoyed these films. So they really toned him way down. He just kind of had just a basic little happy puppy dog look, I call it. And of course, Megalon was his usual buggy look itself. I believe Megalon was actually designed off of a rhinoceros beetle because he shares certain characteristics with that creature. And of course, Jaguar, how he came to be was Toho had a contest. They were in children of the same day or adults, whatever. Anyway, their thoughts on what to make a great robot, a great new robot mascot for him and everything, for a new character. So almost a million people sent that stuff in. They ended up taking one of the submissions was by this, I think it was like an 8-year-old kid, and it was a smiling happy face like that with the middle teeth, and that's the one they chose for Jaguar because they figured, well, he looks like he's smiling, so everybody should love him because he smiles. And so that's how he came to be. And of course, Gigan was left over from the year before, and so they just reused the suit there. No big deal there. No really changes except like a little bit of work on it. Where it had been hit with firecrackers or whatever to repair the damage. And anyway, so it was in pretty good shape. And I believe Satsuma-san reprised his role as Gigan once again. Excuse me. His first big Toho creatures, of course, that he played were Hadra and then Gigan after that. Before he did Godzilla in '84. And anyway, so we had those guys there. They're all lined up, little backstory on them and everything. And that's basically what happens. Battles ensue, battles are lost, battles are won. Now, there's also a part in the front of it where the child and stuff is riding this little kind of motorcycle, little strange little boat-looking thing with happy dolphins on it. And if you ever seen the movie, you know what it is. It gets sucked down into the whirlpool once the people have let loose Megalon and Seatopians. And Robert Durham was also in this film. He was in several Toho movies like Green Slime, a couple of others off the top of my head, and he was really good. Everybody really pokes fun a lot at his little speech, "Rise up, Megalon, rise up, rise up." It's like he's saying like your mom trying to get you out of bed, like, "Hey man, get out of bed, let's go to school, rise up, come on kid, get it going." But anyway, moving on from that, basically that's what happens. And there were a few scenes in this which really hadn't happened to Toho before. One of them was when the evil guys are in the scientist's office, and the little kid is in there. Both the adults get knocked out, and the little kids are like smacking around on him and knocking him out too. It was pretty violent. So that got kind of trimmed up for the USA release. Another thing too was in the truck. They were in a semi-truck, basically, and people were driving along, and there was the bad guys, and there was a shot of some girly magazine posters in there, and they cut that scene out too for the US release because they figured maybe the kids would see it, so no pornography there. So they cut that out. And another thing I wanted to touch on was the difference between Megalon for a lot of the creatures. Because before, the only insects we had were Kamacris, and of course, Kamungo being a spider, he was of course an arachnid. But this is the first time they had an insect as the main adversary that was big and powerful. And they came up with the effects, of course, in this, and he did a good job with the budget he had, I thought. He was doing the best he could with what there was. And he was always known as Mr. Explosion around so a whole lot, because he always liked a lot of explosions. And he did with scream on him here. Now, they did use a lot of stock footage in this one. When they were shooting the laser tanks at Megalon, timing through the trees, that's actually a bunch of the shots from Gyro being shot out or the gargantuas by the laser tanks. And they just cut it in because if you use some old footage, you'll have to create new ones. That saves a lot of the budget. And so, it's a off-the-cuff filmmaking, you might say. But the story itself is pretty basic, really. The creatures are there, and of course Godzilla and Jaguar get together and defeat the bad guys, and then roll on out. There's also one other thing I wanted to bring up too. A lot of people don't know this, but back in the 70s, around that time, when Marvel got the license from Toho to create their own Godzilla comic, Stan Lee and Jim, I think it was Herb Trimpe and Doug Munich, I think, and maybe Archie Goodwin, all went out to see that latest Godzilla, which was in town in New York, and of course, that was Godzilla versus Megalon. They said Stan Lee loved it. He was laughing himself to death watching the movie. So anyway, said, we'll go with that. So they kind of modeled it after that, even though it really doesn't look like Godzilla from Godzilla versus Megalon, but, that's the way they came up with that and everything. And of course, the comic lasted about 24 issues, I believe, and before it was canceled. But that's a kind of little fun factor and everything. And trying to think if there was anything really wild in this that I wanted to touch on offhand. One of the things I did want to touch on was that the suit for Megalon is pretty kind of cool, I think. And he has little beetle wings that pop out so he can fly around with. So that was kind of something new. And he was following in the 70s footsteps that Godzilla was facing more and more powerful adversaries. Like Hedorah had beam effects. He had the ability to fly, of course. He could, vomit sludge all over him and use acid. In the scene where Godzilla sticks his hand in and brings it back out in Godzilla versus Hedorah, and it's all kind of burnt up and steamy and stuff. What they did to the 68 suit, basically, they wanted a skeletal hand. So what they did was they cut the regular hand off, just chopped it off, put on a skeleton hand there for him to use, and then later on they were going to put it back on, but then decided the suit was too jacked up to use again, so that one got tossed, and they built a new suit. And it's kind of different, very different in that, because Godzilla's actions are really taking on more of a anamorphic look, you might say, because he's copying human beings a lot more, very, very much more. He's like, he kind of reminds me of one scene when he's like doing like this and telling him to come on, like that. It almost reminded me of Bruce Lee when he would be in the movie right before a fight and put his hand up and do like that. It really reminded me of that, so I'm sure they were getting a lot of influences from a lot of other movies, but it was pretty cool. But they just wanted a nice Godzilla that kids could enjoy. And it is a fun movie. Yeah, there's a lot of violence in it, but like when the kid and the one guy are in the back of the truck there, and they're stuck, and they're sliding out of the truck, going to hit the dam any moment, and they get belted by one of Megalon's claw hands, and they fly in the air. I mean, as far as they flew, they would have been dead on impact, but anyway, it hits, and of course they roll out. But yeah, it's a movie, it's fantasy, so nobody died, so that's a good thing. And I'm trying to think, oh yes, indeed. There have been a few toys made of these creatures over the years. M1's made some stuff, Marnosan's made some stuff. Bandai is starting to make some things now. They've been making Jaguars for a while, and they do have the 73 Godzilla coming out. Plus, you know, they have the already previously released Jaguar and Megalon. We have those, and of course there's been a million Daikaijus, you know, released and everything, so those are pretty easy to get. On the other hand, like companies like X Plus, they have released Megalon and they have released Jaguar. And as far as a 73 Godzilla, they have not actually released it yet. But I would think that wouldn't be too far down the line. And you do have your 30 centimeter and 25 centimeter releases from X Plus of Geico. So they're pretty much covering it up pretty good there. So you do a little bit more 73 Godzilla in there. That should take care of the business. They used this suit again, but it was a little bit different. And Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, they just changed it a little bit. The head was redesigned, and they put a lot of teeth in it to make it look meaner. And that's what they did for that. It kind of looked weird because it looked like he was smiling at you all the time, like he was on a dental commercial or something. So I guess I thought the effect was good, but it just really had that punch like it should have. And speaking of punches, everybody that's seen the movie knows the fight song at the end of the punch, punch, punch song, which was pretty fun. We used to sit there in theaters. I remember this when we were kids, and we would sit there and punch along with the screen because that was like the greatest thing ever. So we would have a blast doing that. The other things in the film, oh, this is the one also where Godzilla has the slide, where he does a slide, tail slide, and while Jet Hager was holding Megalon there, a lot of people hate that, but I think it's really funny. He's just bouncing himself on his tail and sliding along, which was kind of cool, fun, campy. Just that time, you know, time of period, that time in the production there. So, you know, the word was released at everything, that's for sure. Folks, any questions out there from anybody offhand, real quick? Yes, sir.
So, June Food doesn't have a good reputation on fans. I was curious, what do you think he brought to the franchise?
I think he brought to the franchise some different ideas and some experimentation to it. He was sort of following the formulas that had been there before, but if you look at any of the films he did, you know, like Sea Monster first, you know, and those other ones, he brought like a new style to it, different from Honda. I mean, of course, I like Honda the best for the director of that period, but he wasn't afraid to take a lot of chances, and he did, and he worked within his budget constraints, because his budgets were like cut big time. But I think he did a great job for what he had to work with. And like I said, he was more experimental. He wanted to step outside the box and do something different. And he succeeded, I think. Really did. Yes, sir? You did great. There's several of those. They're really nice too. Different sizes and things. And they have a new one that just came out. I think it's a Godzilla store exclusive in Japan. And it has like both Jaguar and Megalon. And they have little shiny finishes applied to them, almost like they're glowing or just really super shiny. So it is pretty cool. That's a good pick up there. You got that. Always hang on to him because he'll be a lot of fun throughout the years, you know. So, oh, did you? Cool. Yeah, there's a bunch of good stuff in there from Megalon. There's Megalon figures, Jaguar figures, Gaiden figures. I mean, there's tons of all those guys. The only guy we're waiting on is from Bandai is Godzilla 73, and he'll be coming, I think, in October is when he's scheduled to release and everything. Oh, is it this month? Okay, cool. Thanks, Ed. Yeah, I thought it was going to be like October or something. I think you know what I got confused with? Is the new Bandai figures they're releasing here. They're start releasing in September, and Amazon I looked last night, and they said they'll be shipping early October. That's what I was looking at. Thank you, sir. So that's coming up even faster than I thought. And Amazon is going to start releasing some, other dealers too. Bandai is going to open up their own line finally, re-releasing their figures that they released in Japan previously. Here in the United States, Amazon already has pre-orders for all the figures they're releasing in the first set. So if you're interested in some of those, be sure to check it out and see what's happening and everything. Good stuff. Oh, yes, right over here, sir.
Did you know that John Belushi had some
costumes
for...
Thanks for reminding me. I was getting ready to throw into that one. Yeah, Godzilla versus Megalon, believe it or not, up until probably maybe the MonsterVerse, or not MonsterVerse, but probably up until Godzilla, Geno 98, was probably the most widely viewed Godzilla film in the United States because it played relentlessly in drive-ins, television, theaters. Plus, thanks to Saturday Night Live and John Belushi, when they showed it on NBC TV, prime time, they showed this prime time on NBC. John Belushi was in a Godzilla scene. Now the problem with this was, is before he put on the suit, he liked to drink and do drugs and stuff. So he was getting drunk and he actually snorted a line of cocaine. So when he got out there, he was just like stumbling around and crashing into stuff and falling all over the place. If you can find it on YouTube, it is really funny to watch. Yes. poor John. Bless his heart up in heaven. He gave us a lot of good entertainment, though, that's for sure. Any other questions out there, folks, right now? Yes?
I'm sorry, I don't know too much about this film.
That's okay.
But were they planning to spin off their yard's own set of movies?
Yeah, what they wanted to do was either do it in his own set of films or maybe on TV, because Toho owned a couple of Toho owned and still does own several TV stations in Japan. And some of them merged with the NHK network, the new Hong Kong network, but there are a couple of standalones still left and everything. But yeah, that was the original intention after that. But for some reason, I think it's because Godzilla vs. Megalon didn't make a whole bundle of cash. None of the 70 films made a lot of money. The only one that probably did the best was, I know Godzilla vs. Gigan did good, then it kind of started dropping off right after that. So they decided to close out the series, with Terror of Mechagodzilla in '75. So they brought back Ube to do the score, they brought back Honda to direct the film and get some better writers and stuff in it. And that was probably the more successful one of the 70s that they closed it out with, because the advertisement was, this is the last Godzilla film in the Showa series. So that did kind of help. But yeah, the returns on that were not good. They were kind of abysmal. And now they actually made more, I think, on it for the worldwide release than they did in Japan. So, and I guess they were kind of gun shy after that. They didn't want to try and pump a whole bunch of money into a new television series or a new film featuring a character that was in a new character was in a film that hadn't been proven yet and didn't really do that good. But that was definitely on their minds too. That was one of the publicity stunts of having the kids do all their drawings and stuff. Sent them in, they thought, well, yeah, this would be great. Kids would do that. We'll put it in a movie. Or kids would want to go see it. And it didn't really do that good in Japan, unfortunately. But I mean, it did okay. It did fair. It just didn't do like the numbers they were looking for, unfortunately. But yeah, that's pretty much it. There's the whole. Yes, sir. Over there. Yeah, man, I want to kind of see what's going on with that, because I enjoyed him. I was watching that Godzilla Singer to Point, and Jack Jaguar, I guess he's okay in there and everything. It's kind of cool to see him again. I didn't really like the Rodance as just a pterodactyl, I thought they could do a little better than that, but I thought the Anguirus that was in there was really cool. I really liked the Anguirus that was in there. But yeah, that'll be something I'll be keep my eyes out forward to for sure on that one. So I want to see what folks with that. Yes, sir. As far as I know, it's supposed to be a short. Is it on Netflix or is it on?
It's, do you know that in 2021 they had a Irish short?
Okay. Oh, yes, that's right. I know what you're talking about now. Slap me, I'm stupid. Okay, here we go. Thank you. Basically what it is going on, it's getting worked on now. I was on Shinichi Wakasa's site, or actually on his Facebook account, and I was looking at all this new stuff that he has. He's doing a complete mask. He's going back to the old school stuff. It's going to be a complete regular outfit, just like they did for Godzilla, Godzilla versus Gigan. And so they're going back to that. It's going to be, I think it's going to be really, really good. What's funny is Toho has got marketing sense even better than they did before. For this production, they want to gauge fans' interest, so they have like a Kickstarter type program set up where you can donate money. And I guess what it does is put you in the running for a prize or something. But I need to do that, by the way. I need to do a little cash to it because I want to see it come to fruition. But yeah, that is right. I totally forgot about that one. But I mean, what's stupid is I just looked at it like 2 or 3 days ago. And I was looking at Wakasa and I said, oh man, that was great. And showing off the stuff and everything. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that one, for sure. And any place else out there right now, guys? Yes, back there.
I understand that this film sort of accidentally fell into public domain.
Yeah, that's true. Unfortunately, it had to do something with the releasing stuff when they released it, because they released it into Japan and some territories, but then what happened was when it got dubbed and sent over here, it really did fall into public domain. What didn't really happen with the ones after that, the Megagodzilla 2 films, it didn't happen, but Toho was I guess they were kind of desperate, so they just kind of let it, the English version of it, just kind of go, the one they had over here. And it went all over the place, and played it, didn't get any residuals from it whatsoever. So it was just kind of there. So that's one reason it was one of the more widely seen Godzilla films, it was always popping up on video, beginning with VHS and moving on to compact disc and Blu-ray and whatever. But anyway, yeah, it's been around forever. That's like when Mill Creek, I think it was, had the rights to do it. They were going to do that Blu-ray, release a few years back of that, and then it got kind of canned on, and it kind of got stopped. And I guess that was maybe Toho. I'm just surmising here. It might have been Toho or somebody else's attorneys trying to tell them, hey, you can't do that. We want a cut of that. Either they worked out a deal with them for a small residual, or Toho figured, well, we don't really have any grounds because that is a public domain version. They were going to use the same version that people see on TV and in the theaters here in the States. So yeah, it was kind of thing. So I guess they worked out a little something because it did have a release on Amazon. I think you can still get it on Amazon, I think. I'm not sure 100%, but I think it's still available on there, that's for sure. Yes, order.
So I'm just going to clarify. So what happened with, it was Media Blasters, was they had paired the film, they had gotten the rights from Toho, but it was the special features that they were bringing home.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
They hadn't gotten clearance from Toho, so they had to stop the production, halt it, and they put out a bare bones release. However, the bare bones release on the DVD had some oopsies where apparently they sent the wrong master to the printer and got the special edition release.
Oh, nice.
Instead of the one that just had film.
Yeah, just the film on it. Were those the same special features that are on like the Toho DVD and stuff like that? Same ones?
No, I think it was like there was an interview with Ted Thomas, I think was on.
Oh, okay, cool.
And like some of the trailer reel.
Yeah.
It was the trailers that Toho was like, you don't have the clearance for that.
Oh, okay, I see now. Yeah, I had to check that one out myself, track it down for being a completist and everything. And thank you. And one of the other things I was just having to think of too, like that, is it is available, of course, on. You can find it on Toho Blu-ray, Toho DVD. Their Blu-rays do play here in the States. They play worldwide. They're Region A, or at least in the United States. And there is no Japanese, there's no English subtitles on it. Everything is in Japanese, but you get a great Blu-ray print of it. Toho now has started moving to the 4K market. I just had to go buy a brand new 4K Blu-ray DVD player, because of that. So I went and bought one, which I needed to do anyway because my old Region Free player, it bit the dust on it. It served me faithfully for 12 or 13 years or so, and then finally pooped out. But anyway, so I got that. Now, I also at the same time ordered the 4K release of King Kong vs. Godzilla, the 62 version. And I have yet to watch it. I'm trying to watch it when I get back home from G-Fest. And I have a 4K TV, of course, in the player. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. It should be a great thing. I asked August Rigoni if there were anything plans to release anymore, and he said, no, not right now. I said, they're showing a few of them in theaters selectively in Japan, but he said, no other features are yet going to be pressed out on 4K. And I said, okay, cool. So we'll get a little wait there. I'm definitely going to check that one out, so that'll be really good stuff. Let's see, something else I want to tell you guys about, which was the height of the animals themselves, the kaiju. Godzilla is still 50 meters. Jaguar is basically 50, 51 meters or something. It's pretty much in the same height category. Megalon's a little bit bigger because of his horn, so he would probably be closer to 60 meters, I guess you might say. And then Gigan's a little bit bigger, top of his little frill over there, so he probably, pops in at 60 meters also. And so it's a little size there for each of them, but not nothing. And Megalon has so many cool beams he can use. And my favorite scene in the entire film was not the one where they're Jaguar and Godzilla are surrounded by fire in a circle and they're trying to escape and just trying to get out of there, or the battle scenes. Actually, my favorite scene, I love every time I see it, is when Megalon's laying on the ground after Godzilla defeated him, and he shoots one of the little spitballs of energy or whatever you want to call it. He shot one of Godzilla before and it burned him and stuff, had a little explosion. But when he's laying on the ground, he shoots one up in desperation and goes right back down in his mouth and blows up in there, and he has smoke coming out of his little beak. I love that scene. I was laughing so hard every time I see that. Not in a bad way, like, poking fun of it. It's just like, it just tickles my funny bone, like, hey, you moron, now see, you get a taste of your own medicine kind of thing. But I get a kick out of that. Any more questions floating around, folks, out there? About this or any other thing there? Yes. Oh, I didn't know where you went. Yes.
Will we be talking about John Gary, Ben Pogasari?
Those guys, yeah. Trying to remember. Now, Don Gary was...
John Gary South, Pogasari North Korean.
Oh, Korean, okay. Oh, that's right, you don't know. They switched it.
Oh,
Yeah, it's gonna be at 3 instead. They want to know if I can switch from 3 to, if I had 3 to 4. They needed 3 to 4 because one of the guys wasn't gonna be here yet. Everything, he was running late. Sorry about that. This is, Godzilla versus Megalon. Cool, thanks. But yeah, and like I said, I know this gentleman here had another question. Sir, do you have another one over there?
Oh, yeah. Do you know how the strategy, right, is not even barbecue and then burn out?
Oh yeah, what it is, they do get super hot, and they have fans, and they can only stay in those suits for a very short period of time, maybe 10 to 15, 20 minutes at the most. And then when they take them off, they're just covered completely in sweat. And they said that, well, like for instance, some of the people like, I remember Satsuma, I think when he was doing Godzilla vs. Destroyer, there was so much cloud and smoke and stuff in there, he couldn't see what he was doing. And he said that, there was so much smoke backing up there, it almost choked him, where he almost passed out. And, but other than that, that was like his biggest thing, except for when he stepped on the floor, the miniature set floor, and I think it was Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, he stepped and it went through, Godzilla was to fall, and hit some buildings. He actually whacked his skull on that, and they had to take him out to the emergency room at the hospital, just to check him out, make sure he's okay. But he was okay, he was kind of banged up, he was still good and everything. And Nakajima, he would come out there to the city, get out of the suit, and he would like just pour in sweat everywhere. He was like exhaustively sweaty. And they said always the first thing he would do, they said even the crew used to take bets on this, the first thing he was going to do. And every time he got out of there, the very first thing he would comb his hair. That was the very first thing he'd do when he got out of the suit. He wanted to be looking good, you know. And it is horribly hot. I can tell you from my personal experience, when I was like a 12 or 14-year-old, I think it was, around that age, they had opened a new barbecue restaurant, family restaurant in my hometown. And a friend of mine's mom, his mom, had worked with the people that opened the restaurant. They wanted to know if anybody wanted to come down and wear a cow and pig outfit. And we're like, they said, we'll give you, this is back in the 70s, they're like, well, we'll give you $20 and you can eat all the free barbecue you want. And we're like, okay, cool. So we did it. And I'll tell you what, it was so hot in those suits, we were just able to stay under for like maybe 10, 15 minutes. And it wasn't like a blazing hot day, it was only like in the 70s. And we had to wait for cars. Of course, we would drive by and flip you off and yell at you and stuff like that. We didn't get free food. And but it would really get so hot, we could only stand there for a little bit. And the hands were separate from the suit itself. Of course, sort of like little Godzilla's head is in Space Godzilla. And if you watch real carefully, when he's being blasted out by Space Godzilla, you can see the poor little head coming up in the air and off and everything, almost. But anyway, I digress. Anyway, yeah, it was horribly hot in there. I mean, we were just sweating. Like, good thing we were like really young, right? 13, 14, because I don't know if a person was older, like maybe in their 50s or 60s, there's no way they could stay in there that long. They would just pass out because of how bloody hot it is. It is very hot. So if you guys are going to be doing anything suitmation-wise in your life, be sure to make sure there's personal controls there. They have a first aid kit around, and it can cool you down perfectly once it's done, because it can be dangerous, that's for sure. Yes, sir.
I remember I was talking to the Dojo Studios people, and they said the Godzilla suit's going to be walking around, and they said go in for 30 minutes because they'll pass out. So,
yeah, that's true.
So even fan-made ones are that dangerous.
They definitely are. They definitely are. And both Nakajima and Satsuma on Godzilla, they both said that they would get hurt. And of course, they had a couple of injuries. Nakajima's worst one, I guess, was at the end of, I believe it was, I can't remember if it was Godzilla versus King Kong versus Godzilla or Mothra versus Godzilla. It was one of them. I think it was King Kong versus Godzilla. When he fell to roll into the sea. What happened was he fell and he hit his head on the set piece for the mountain falling into the sea, and he got knocked out. He was underwater guzzling water for a while, so they had to pull him out of there as quick as they could, resuscitate him, give him some oxygen, squeeze out the bad water, and he was like, hey, what happened? He had no idea what was going on. So it was very, very closely. Nakajima almost bought the farm on that one, but luckily he survived. He gave us so much more joy with all these great movies and stuff. Another one, Nakajima, come to think of it, that he got injured on was in the end of Iran, when they pull up there with that little truck to hit him with explosives. they hit the truck at the wrong spot, or it stopped at the wrong spot, because when it blew off, it hit him right in the groin with all this heat, and he got some really bad burns on the inner thighs and legs and stuff. And he goes, yeah, I got burned terribly in my special spot, so we all know what happened there, you know. But it can be dangerous, yeah, and you just got to really have people around you that know what they're doing. Even if you're like doing a play or something, you're dressed up as some animal, you got to be sure there's people around that know what's going on, because it can be dangerous. Same thing if you're in a movie and there's any firearms involved or things like that, or even clubs or spears or anything like that. Just make sure that, you know, the people, if you have to be that, be an actor and get into that, be sure that they have the proper people there, they have the proper tech, they have a first aid kit, and know how to treat people's injuries for sure. Just a little advice there. I've seen it happen to some people. Yes, sir?
Who were the two actors? Since they were
I'm trying to remember. You know, I'm noticing someone was Gigan. The guy that played Godzilla in this one, I forget his name offhand, but I believe he is the one. He only played Godzilla this one time, if I remember correctly. And the same guy I'm thinking about, he went and opened a sushi business later in Tokyo. But it's still open today, and he still runs it, but he doesn't want anybody to say where it is, because he doesn't want people to come pounding in there all the time. That's if I remember correctly. Yes?
Shinji Takagi was Godzilla.
Okay, good.
Hideki Hideko Day as Megalon, and Kenpachiro Satsuma was Gigan. Tatsuguchi Kamada was Jaguar.
Oh, Kamada was Jaguar? Okay, cool, thank you. Good deal, good deal. Yeah, all brigade guys there for sure. And of course, you know, Satsuma went on to claim to fame as Godzilla a few years after that, which was great. Godzilla, the Heisei series especially, would be a lot poorer without him in there, because he did such a good job. And yeah, we know when that closed out with Godzilla versus Destroyer, Satsuma was almost he was in his early 50s then, so it was getting tougher on him to do it all the time. But he got out there like a trooper and put on the best performance he could. So, and also the end of Destroyer, that was the end of it for him, but that was a great send-off to that Godzilla at that time. I know there's also been a lot of people that were talking about that the Godzilla vs. Gigan that they did, the little short that's on YouTube that was narrated by Megumi Ondaka. There's a lot of speculation because of the way they set it up that might have been Regenerated Jr., that, you know, that got regenerated at the end of that. So if it is, that's cool, because I really like the design on that one. It is cool. It's a great design. The new one, I know it's the new Godzilla minus one. I know it's based on the somewhat on the ride, but it looks a heck of a lot different. The spines look different. The face is different. So much stuff is different. It's a really cool design, so I think they did a great job on that. So I look forward to seeing the film. And especially what's great about that is I don't have to travel to Japan this time, because on December 1st it's going to get released here in the United States. Well, I guess it's one day only, but when they released Shin Godzilla here, back in, I think it was late September, October, because I've been to Japan to see it when it came out in that late July, early August period. When they did show it here, it was only supposed to be for 2 days, but they kept it for like 2 weeks. Most of the theaters did, because it was making a lot of money. People kept coming in to see it, and it was only showing it like once a day. And they were coming in to see it, It made over $a few million, which is amazing for one film. The later owners wanted to keep it longer, but they couldn't, because the other movies that were already booked to take its spot they were getting upset because they wanted to be in there making money, so they had to stop it, unfortunately. And so it was making money. So hopefully the same thing will happen with this, because of all the MonsterVerse stuff nowadays. People will be interested in it, a lot of people will, they'll go see it, so that'll make it successful. So maybe that'll encourage Toho to not only make more Godzilla films, but to do a dual release like they used to do in the 60s and the 70s, and give us a chance in the United States without having to travel to Japan to see that movie too. And I'm pretty sure, it'll be subtitled, just like Shin Godzilla was and Shin Ultraman and all that stuff. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll do really good, so they'll be making some more. And any more questions up there, guys? Yes, sir, right here. Oh,
So were you around when these movies were coming out in theaters, or what was that experience like?
Oh, it was fantastic. Giving away my age here, when Godzilla versus Godzilla came out, it got released here, it came out in '64 in Japan, it got released here in '66. At the time in '66, I was about 4 years old. So my grandfather was like monster movies, and he had seen the original Godzilla. And so, in the theaters here in the States. So he said, hey, let's go see a monster movie. I'm like, okay, cool. So I saw that and I said, man, this is the greatest dinosaur monster of all time. I said, this is the best thing ever. And it made such an impact on me that just that one film that I was just blown away forever. I said, I got to see more of these. Where are they at, you know? So that was before cable and before home and home video and all that stuff. So I would sit there and search for the TV guide looking, is there any Godzilla on this week? Is there any Godzilla? Just checking it out to see what I could see. And also another thing that out of the film that stuck with me, not just Godzilla, but the other thing was with Evil Kube's soundtrack to it. I love that so much. Even as I'm a little 4-year-old kid, I thought, this is the best music I've heard ever. You know, somebody walking around humming and stuff, you know, that kind of thing. And other kids will look like, what the hell's wrong with you? You know, and I'm like, oh, it's great, that's Godzilla. And they go, oh my God, never mind. That kind of thing. Is that all like, they didn't come up and ask me, well, gee, is that like Superman? No, it's not Superman. It's something else. He's not the Justice League, people, trust me. But anyway, yeah, that was it. So it made a huge impact on me. Being able to see all those in the theater first run, like with Monster vs. Godzilla, He the Three-Headed Monster, Monster Zero, War of the Gargantuas. One I missed was Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster and Son of Godzilla. They didn't get a really huge wide release, and so I missed those two actually right there. Of course, I got to see the Strong Monsters when it was released, and first run in the theaters here in the States. That one, and I second to see Godzilla's Revenge. And even though I watched that as a huge Godzilla fan, I'm like, what happened? What is this? But I did like Gapper, so that was cool. But anyway, then moving on, of course, we had the Smog Monster. Now, what was weird is Godzilla vs. Gigan didn't get a huge release in the States. It was only in selected markets, so it took a while before I was actually able to see that. They brought it back later. I do believe Continental released it later. I think it was Continental. Released it later as Godzilla on Monster Island, like in 77, 78. And what was weird, they teamed it up with like Ray Harryhausen, Sinbad and Eye of the Tiger. And so it was like a double feature of that. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, I get to see Harryhausen and Godzilla, let's go, okay. But I remember that. Then, of course, I was looking for it for years. They had like photos and stuff of famous monsters. And I was like, where is this movie? I can't find it. And when Megalon came out, I saw that, of course. And then Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, I had seen that. And then Terror Mechagodzilla got released, but where I lived at in the South, they didn't release it until like a year or two later, when his first run through was. And a funny little thing, and people that don't know this about Famous Monsters magazine, is actually Forrest Ackerman hated Godzilla. He really, really hated him because of his relationship with Ray Harryhausen and Ray Bradbury. Now, the thing with Harryhausen, what generated this situation is back when the time before Godzilla, King Kong vs. Godzilla was made, Willis O'Brien, special effects pioneer, excellent guy. He had written a script called King Kong versus the Prometheus, which was sort of like a big giant Frankenstein. He was going to make out of different animal parts using their hides and whatever crazy thing. I think he called it an Inco or something like that. Anyway, he'd written a script where they were supposed to, Kong was in the city, Inco was there too. They were supposed to burst free at the end of the movie and have a climactic battle on the San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge. Unfortunately, he took it to the studios, several studios, nobody wanted to do it. They're like, that's passe, monsters are passe. And so he went to those different places. Finally, Universal Studios, a producer named John Beck, said, oh yeah, let's produce it. So he kind of took it. I guess O'Brien his health was really bad by then. I mean, it was really getting bad, unfortunately. And so he took it, and Toho had already been trying to make a deal with Universal to do. They wanted to get King Kong, because Universal had bought the property thing of King Kong from RKO after they went Pui, and Desolate Productions took it over in the 60s, or late 50s actually. So they were wanting a vehicle to do that with. So what they did was Beck, unbeknownst to O'Brien, set this off, set up a meeting with Saperstein, Toho's attorney here, went to Japan, talked to them, and of course Toho was overjoyed. They wanted to bring back Godzilla in a color feature. King Kong was perfect, they wanted to do that, so that's how that came about. Harryhausen, being a mentor and lifelong friend of O'Brien, was really, personally upsetting, so he really never cared for Godzilla after that, and also neither did Forrest Ackerman. Neither one of them really cared for it because they had been around so long and knew who O'Brien was, so it's kind of like a myth situation there. But yeah, but the thing was, here's the deal. Every time that Famous Monsters was a film that ran a cover story on Godzilla, or even just photos inside, or had a little splash page bird on the cover. Said Godzilla's in here, new Godzilla. That issue would sell 5 to 10 times as many issues as a regular issue would. So James Warren, the publisher of Warren Publications, he said, hey man, you gotta put Godzilla in here. He goes, it sells like 10 times the amount of copies we normally do. And very, before he was his heart, he's like, I don't like Godzilla. He goes, I don't care. He goes, put him in there anyway. The kids love him. Put him in every issue if you can. He goes, well, not in every issue. He goes, well, at least several times a year, you gotta have Godzilla stuff in there. And so he said, okay. So they started putting him in more of it, which gave us that one Famous Monsters 114, which is the Japanese Giants issue, which is that cool painting by King Kelly of Godzilla and Rodan in the city, if you've ever seen it. It's really cool. In fact, I emailed King Kelly many years ago before he passed away and ordered a print of that. So there's a print that hangs happily in my house now. That Famous Monsters covers the original print, not with the Famous Monsters logo on it, but the original. And so it's an awesome thing. But yeah, it's totally cool being able to see those back there when I was a youngster. And of course, when Godzilla 84 came out as Godzilla 85 here, I was all for it when I saw that. I said, oh man, this is great too. This is lovely. And as far as the Heisei series, nothing was really released here. What was strange was I was living in Los Angeles at the time. It's been a lot of years out there, but what was strange was as the movies there, they would come, but they were, Toho had theaters in Los Angeles at that time. Sometimes they would show them and sometimes they wouldn't. So if they were showing it, I would go and see it. But if they weren't, then I didn't get to. But the good thing was, in the Japanese areas of town there, they had Japanese, of course, restaurants and stores and things like that, department stores, restaurants, food stores. They also had toy shops. And so I would go down there and buy the Bandai figures that would come out, or model kits. That's a cool model kits of something like, they did several for Godzilla, well they did several for the Heisei series and stuff. So I would go down there and buy the stuff. What was great is every year after the movie went to home video in Japan, they would sell the home videos there. So it was in Japanese, but I didn't care, I was going to watch it with Monsters. So I would pick that up, and then, that was the way I knew about it. And then what was funny was, G-Fan started like in '93, I do believe, and I had no idea what G-Fan was until I saw a blurb in one of the Prehistoric Times magazine. It says, Godzilla Festival coming to Burbank, California, G-Fest. I was like, man, I gotta go to this. So I went there and I said, oh yeah, this is cool, I like this is awesome. But it was different back in those days because you didn't have like the fan base that we have now. And so there was people there, but it wasn't as huge as it is now. But I said the more the merrier myself. I love it. Godzilla gets more fans every year, so it's a great thing. It is a wonderfully great thing. Hey, any more questions? I thought, do you have a question there? Yes?
I was wondering if you knew, like, the background on the dolphin thing.
Oh yeah, that thing is so goofy. Yeah, I think it was just a children's toy that was sold at the time, and they thought this would be great to use in it. I don't know if it was actually a product created for the film or it was just a children's toy. I'm going with the children's toy because that's exactly what it looks like. It could have been a prop, but it would actually float. So I'm going to go for it having some kind of watercraft that would actually float. I remember a few years back, some guy actually made a model kit of that thing, and you could buy it painted and stuff. That was pretty cool. Yes. Oh, did you have a question? Oh, okay. I thought he said he needed. Okay, I'll go ahead and flat my boobs some more. Thanks, sir. Anyway, yeah, so that's what I think happened. And of course, like I said, some guy did make a model kit of it that you can buy and paint and everything, which is pretty cool. I think he even made the little things there that could rise up and down like you're actually out in the water doing that. But they actually was not in a lake where they filmed it at. They filmed that at the big pool at Tova's backlot, which is sad to say not there anymore. They had gotten rid of it. They paved over it back in the early 2000s to make a bigger parking area for everybody to park because of all the productions and stuff there. One of the things when we went on G-Tour, myself and several others, we got to Japan there. One of our things for the day, outside of shopping and hitting a lot of points around town, like going to the Diet Building and going to Wako, the Wako Clock Building and all that kind of good stuff. Mr. Akira Takarada had arranged for us because when he was alive, he was still a super big deal at Toho Studios. He had like carte blanche. He told them that we were coming over. So what he did, he arranged a tour of Toho Studios for us. So we got to go and see the tour, took the regular tour, and so we were having a great time. They took us like up in the old props department up there, which was hilarious. We went up there and it was like all these shoes and clothes and stuff just tossed everywhere. Plus there was like a bunch of those little wooden planes that they used. in the old films, like when they would shoot missiles and rockets at Godzilla or whatever kaiju we were shooting at, and some of them were all burnt up with the little firebird things that come off of them. So it was really cool to see. That was great. And another thing that was cool there, the main thing I thought was really cool on our whole trip there to Ho, besides just getting backstage, you know, and seeing what was going on, they showed us a bunch of the sound stages, showed us that this was being done here, and then there was one sound stage that there was a production going on at that time, so we couldn't go in. But that was okay, at least we got to see a bunch of sound stages. But anyway, we got to go and see the old orchestration room there that they were getting ready to close down and remodel it into something else. The new one, I guess, going digital. And it was really weird because we got to go in there, and it was kind of like a special feel because it set up some photos of Ifukube and also some of the pictures of some of the Godzilla films there that had been scored there. And what was weird, it was you walk in there and you think it's going to be this huge place like this for a full orchestra, but he had an orchestra, but there were only like about 20, 25 members of the orchestra, and there's a little tiny movie screen there where they would roll back the curtains and show the film and score it like that. And it had the podium, you know, where Maestro Ifukube was. And it was really wild though because you walk in there, it's not nearly as big as you would have thought it would have been. But it was truly really a great point and fun time in my life to be able to actually go in there and see that. So I thought, man, this is awesome. And I was so thankful that they actually took us in there so we could go see it and see what was happening, you know. Everything was totally awesome. I really dug it. And, any more questions there, folks? Let's see if anybody had. Oh, yes, where are you, sir?
Do you have any information on how they decided to use that goofy Godzilla
Oh, and his tail? Yeah, they thought the kids would like it. They did. They thought since the audience was getting younger, the kids were like, yeah, this is the greatest thing ever. Godzilla could ride his tail and do like a double drop kick on a monster, you know. Because also what it started taking off a lot in Japan, it had already been pretty big, but what really started taking off with the advent of television was professional wrestling. And so the kids and even the adults were used to all those kind of big crazy stunts like that. And I'm guessing Fukada wanted to cash in on something like that. Said, hey, they love watching wrestling, let's put that in there, you know. And that's the main reason it was in there. Sort of like, was similar but not really like Godzilla's grabbing his tail and flying and headroom and knock headroom out of the sky. That's another one of those things. And speaking of that one scene there, they said that Michael Tanaka was so mad when he came back from his, he had some ill health, so he had to go take off for a while. They said he was so mad at Bono, that he threatened to fire him because when he saw that and other stuff that was in Godzilla vs. Hedorah, he said it was the worst Godzilla movie ever made. He goes, don't you ever? He's like, you will never get another Godzilla movie or anything like that, a picture like that from me ever again. He did do a whole lot of films, but it took him a little while to get back into the graces there. But yeah, and a lot of kids just love that scene, you know, the younger audience did. I was watching it and I was like 11, I think, or something like that. Probably about 9 or 10. And I was watching it and said, this is weird. You know, because even I was like 9 or 10 years old, this is weird. What's going on, kind of thing, you know. But yeah, that's why they put it in there. Anything like that that's kind of goofy or whatnot. There was a Japanese actor on television too when they brought the Godzilla thing in where he like wiped his nose and went in box and stuff. I forgot the character's name or what show it was on, but that movie was taken from that. So was the infamous she dance in Monster Zero. That was also featured on, someone had done that on television, and I thought that looked really cool and fun. So they said, Tsuburaya, when he put it in there, they said that Honey was like shaking his head, and then Tsuburaya goes, hey, the kids are going to love this, which he was right about. They really did. They love that kind of stuff. And they said Han was just like shaking his head and smoking another cigarette, like, oh, you know, kind of thing. But, you know, he went with it. He said, okay, the kids love it. But a little behind the scenes facts there and everything. But I think we got time for like one more question, maybe two. Yes, sir, over here.
Was it, you know how earlier you said one of the scenes from Godzilla vs. Megalon was inspired by wrestling matches?
Yeah.
Well, wasn't King Kong vs. Godzilla inspired by a wrestling match?
Yeah, they were.
That aired on TV?
Yeah, they were. Television was kind of in its infancy in Japan, like it was. Even though they did have black and white TV, it really took off all their stations, like in the really big when the '60s hit, when they went color and Ultraman came on and all that stuff. They really pushed it forefront. True, there were wrestling matches there also, and I believe they did have them on like the new Hong Kong NHK, one of the sports networks there. So they did get a lot of that, but Nakajima, when he was in the Japanese Navy, he also learned jiu-jitsu and judo. He was a proficient at judo and jiu-jitsu. So even when he was doing the kaiju stuff, they said he would kind of work out all the combat scenes with the other actors. And the guy that played King Kong, oh my goodness, his name escapes me at this point, but he also played King Ghidorah. And anyway, they worked on it and set up this whole routine. That's like when Ultraman started, Nakajima went with Soraya there for a while and helped block out all the fight scenes for the whole series. They did we call them here continuity sketches. Over there, they just call them Conte for short. And they have tons of those. So basically what that does, it gives you like a little thumbnail comic book type thing of all the action that's going on. So yes, they did do that. And of course, Nakajima was able to use his martial arts training a lot for that stuff. So that's why he got some throws. And of course, they did the thing where King Kong swung Godzilla by his tail. And that was just one of those extra things that came up and said, hey, this will be really fun. People are going to love this. And they did. You know, that's one of the most talked about scenes in the movie, that's for sure. And anybody, any more questions? I think we got time for one more if anybody has anything. Yes, sir?
What was your favorite film out of the show series?
Oh, I'm gonna cheat here. I guess my main favorite film would be Destroy All Monsters, but I have a three-way tie for second place. Some people have dubbed it the Toho trilogy. That would be Mothra vs. Godzilla, Ghidorah the Theory of Monster, and Monster Zero. I feel like those films kind of flowed with each other. That was not used again, basically, only in small bits, but not used basically to that extent until we got to the Heisei series, where one film flowed into another, which worked really well, I thought. But yeah, I'm going to say the Toho trilogy is my second one. And of course, I like Destroy All Monsters the most. I think it's my favorite one because it's got so many monsters in it. You know, I was just like, hey, this is the greatest thing ever, man. But one other movie that had like a bunch of monsters in it, of course, was Final Wars. And I liked all the monsters in it, but the film itself was kind of, I thought, somewhat mediocre myself. I mean, it was good, but it's not like the levels that I was hoping it might be aspired to. But they did have a lot of cool little kaiju in it. So for me, that scores me at least an 8 out of 10. And for all the kaiju in it, and for all the battles they had and everything. Well, folks, I guess we'll have to get ready to scoot on out of here in just a moment. Because they're going to be coming in with everything. Hope you enjoyed our talk about Megalon, all things Toho today, and all that kind of good stuff. Enjoy the rest of the con. Thank you very, very much, guys. And I'll be back next year with more stuff.